Imagine being at a convention and going to an interview panel that's just for you. No bustling crowds, no hours-long lines, just you, the moderator, and your favorite comic book creators. Well, this is pretty much that. Miss Jen sits down every week with two comic book creators for a live stream interview about their latest work, and you can ask them whatever you want. It's Talking Shop, Mondays at 5 Eastern on The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales.
What's up, the internet? It's me, it's Kyle. How's it going? Gotta be honest with you. This is one of those interviews that for me, I feel like, I could just ask one question and take a nap because I've done that with this person before. Because they talk a lot, but they always have a lot of interesting things to say. And this year, our guest this hour has like a list as long as two people's arms of stuff that's happening and coming out. Some of them horse related, some of them horror related, some of them, you might take a steel chair over if you try and get in my way, like when the book comes out. So I suppose we should just bring him in instead of me keeping talking. But I could see him in the background, like mentally preparing for whatever's going to come. And I just kind of want to dangle that knife over him a little bit more. So, ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, the Dirk Manning.
Hello, how are you, buddy?
Not bad, not bad.
Take a nap. How could you take a nap with all the exciting stuff we have going on?
I'm not saying I could this time.
All right, that's fair.
But I asked you once, tell me about your writing process. And then that SpongeBob SquarePants card came up and said, 3 days later.
Well, to be fair, I wrote a whole book about it. So, and I'm working on another book about it. So it's like, hey, tell me about that thing you're writing two books about.
And you were with Leah. So like you guys just kept ping-ponging ideas back and forth. And I'm just over here going,
yeah. Leah Letterman's great. That's why, so.
It's true.
Yeah. Ask two writers about writing.
Right. One of the greatest, Leah is one of those people who I didn't know as a writer. I knew her as an editor and I didn't realize she was a writer. She is, and I can confidently say this, one of the best writers I know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I know a lot of writers. Like my job is to know writers. Like,
yeah, as much as I love her as a friend and I respect her and appreciate her as an editor, I absolutely am just a super fan as a writer. She is so good. She has such a unique voice and such a unique perspective. And yeah, anyone out there who isn't aware of Leah Letterman stuff, make a note. Go check it out. She does prose. Someday maybe we'll woo her into like something comic related. That'd be really fun, based on all the
I've got an idea that for her that's a comic.
Oh,
but I've gotta pitch it to her, and I haven't seen her to pitch it to her since end of last year, since I came up with it. So.
She'll be at Fantastic on Toledo in March.
Yeah, I know. Well, believe me, in March we're going to sit down and talk. I have this whole idea of it's something that only Leah can write, like unique perspective, right?
Right.
Like it's not something that I could write or you could write, or like because of anyhow. We'll talk about that later. We're here to talk about you.
Right, we're saying you're putting over
more
Lee Letterman the whole time, right? That'll be the hour.
Right. But more interestingly, I want to talk about Arnie Anderson, but we'll talk about him later too.
Mm-hmm.
I said some of it was horse related. I didn't say wasn't horseman related. All right,
children related. We have a little bit of everything.
Well, let's start here. I was doing some math.
Okay.
Hanging up art in my office.
Okay.
I got my first piece of art from your longtime collaborator Seth the Moose in 2013.
Yeah.
That's
back at the store
sign.
Right?
No, that was C2E2.
Or C2. Okay. Yep. Okay.
So if my math is
with me, man.
Yeah.
It's a back video. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, right. Okay. So that was by the way, that was the year, if you remember, that I lost my cell phone in Millennium Park. Do you remember this mess? Yeah.
Yes. Now that you say, friends, Kyle and I go back a long way. Okay, clearly,
right.
I mean, so
but
those of you watching this,
that's the math I was doing.
Okay,
it has to have been 11 or 12 years we've been friends now.
Mm-hmm. A decade of decadence,
which is a weird thing because people don't like me that much. So
I get it. I think maybe that's why we're friends, right? Because people can't tolerate us that long. But as a result, we've learned to tolerate each other.
Maybe. I think it's that we could just we could just put on a ghost record and just be happy and not have to really, interact. But no,
there it is.
So do you remember the story of how we first met?
My knee-jerk reaction would be at the shop. But now that you say that, right, it's making me.
It was at a shop.
Okay.
It
wasn't at the shop you worked at the time.
No. I was doing a podcast with JD, who's one of the producers here on The Experience Now, and our other friend Shaggy, Three Pasty Nerds. Right. I came out to meet you and talk to you about being on the podcast. You were doing a signing at Books A Million.
Oh my gosh, that's right. Yes.
I had to drive through a blizzard.
Yes, it was. I remember that. It was like a total blizzard out. All these people came out anyway. Yeah, and you came out, and then we eventually did the podcast at Tony Packo's, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. We did.
Wow, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Right. And so in that time, we've come a long way. Like, you've come a long way.
Yeah. I think I was promoting Nightmare
World Volume 3.
Yep.
There are 2 additional volumes of Nightmare World now, basically. Uh-huh. So let's start here. Okay. You're signing in a bookstore.
In a blizzard.
Your book. In a blizzard.
Sorry. Yes.
How everything has changed since then in terms of you don't do bookstore signings anymore. You do comic book stores, but things have changed. So give me the scope, right? Like, if you look back 10 years, because this is the Experience's 1-year anniversary.
Right.
If you look back 10 years, what things are there things on your list that you're going, holy shit, I can't believe I got to do that? And are there things that you're still kicking yourself where you're going, God, I really wish I would have gotten that book done, or I really wish I would have gotten that thing out?
Yeah, it's one of those things where even in the last 5 years, in the last 3 years, so much has changed, and I think that one of the biggest changes for me has been, and I think, I don't like to say too many positive things about the pandemic, but when the pandemic made everything kind of shut down, I think it was the first time in a long time that I was able to finally step back and recognize how much I have done in the last 10 years, you know. And I'm not saying that as a humble brag, I'm not trying to say it to be cute or anything like that, but like you said in the introduction,
No.
Even the stuff I got coming out now, it's like I got like a scroll of stuff coming out. And stuff I wish I'd done, I mean, I'm sure we're going to talk about this in a little bit. I'm getting to some of that stuff. There's books like Homestead that I've wanted to do since very early in my career that now it's finally the right time. Or things like that, or Right or Wrong Volume 2. I joke around that I've continued to have experiences, positive and not so positive, that have continued to not only shape me as a person and shape me as a professional, but also things that I want to talk about in that book. So originally, Right or Wrong Volume 2 was supposed to come out 2 years ago. Obviously, the last 2 years with the pandemic and the shakeup in the industry and everything else, so much has changed. I kind of vowed that January 1st of this year, December 31st is last year, would be the cut point where I'm not going to talk about anything past that point, so I can actually get Right or Wrong Volume 2 done. And it's interesting because you mentioned signing at bookstores. Now, with being at Source Point Press and them having a distribution deal with Simon & Schuster, I do see a scenario where I'll be doing some regular bookstore signings again, probably in the next year or so, as things start to open up. So it's interesting that it's kind of comes full circle. Yeah, really full circle,
But let's break it down though. So
okay,
Nightmare World Volume 3 had just come out
right
during that blizzard. Like I bought all 3 volumes that night, and I think I read them all in about 2 days, which probably wasn't the smartest thing I've ever done for my psyche.
Yeah,
but
that's fair. That's fair.
But now we're 5 volumes of Nightmare World,
or 4 in a compendium, right?
Yeah, 4 in the compendium, but it's been put into a big giant omnibus and this kind of thing. You've got 4 volumes of how many volumes of Tales of Mystery? I'm gonna botch that one.
4
volumes of Tales about
4 volumes. 4 volumes are published. 5 is coming out this year. We just did the Kickstarter for 5.
Right.
That's what
so 5 volumes of Tales of Mystery, which wasn't a thing except on was it online at that point a little bit?
Yeah, it was online. We launched
we
launched Tales of Mystery June 6, 2006.
There you go.
666.
Right. I was in high school.
Oh look, another gray hair just
yeah,
right.
Hey, you gotta mess with that hair. Yes. No,
yeah.
So you had, but Mystery wasn't published at that point in print.
Not in
print.
Just
Just online. You've got Right or Wrong. You've got a ton of other like sort of anthology sort of stuff. You've got I'm gonna blank on a whole bunch of stuff. But
I had you're right though. I had stories in several smaller anthologies and things like that. And I don't say smaller as like a
no
comment to the work, but they were just small press anthologies. That's kind of what you do. I'm looking at dirkmanning.com, and I actually, one of the things I did was I published my like totally ridiculously full bibliography. So I'm actually going back and looking. Like, I had like I had a story in Dia Stella Mortis that year.
Yeah.
My first story with Big Dog Inc. and the Critter Annual was there. Love Stories to Die For. Man, 13th was a busy year for me. The Gutters, I did a 1-pager for that. You Were Not Alone.
Right.
Great. Yeah, so you're right. That was definitely a year where I was doing a lot of little anthology stuff.
So I guess what I'm getting at is that there's been this kind of uptick. Like it's been a kind of an upward curve this whole time. And then we get to the pandemic and everything has to shut off.
Right.
And so now we're coming back and we're just jumping back in with both feet.
Yeah.
So how has having the freedom to not have to worry about, okay, we're not going to kickstart anything this year. We're not going to worry about publishing anything this year. We're going to just create. How has that felt?
Well, and I think now the results speak for themselves in a way that I spent a year working on Butts and Seats, the Tony Schiavone story. That was a massive undertaking for me. We're talking a lot about Nightmare World, and for people not familiar with Nightmare World, it's a horror anthology where I write every story, but every story is done by a different artist or art team. That's a lot of work, to manage, multiple artists, multiple art teams, things like that. And I haven't done that for a long time since I wrapped up Nightmare World, less than, maybe close to a decade ago, give or take, aside from revamping some stories and things like that. But it's been a long time since I've been in the grind of doing something like that. So when the pandemic started, and like you said, everything kind of shut down to a screeching halt, it allowed me to dig really deep into working on Butts and Seats with Tony Schiavone and our team on that, and then assemble a team of what was initially 10 different artists to do this book. And eventually it blossomed to 25 artists by the time all was said and done. And it was really fun to kind of, again, full circle, right? Go back to my roots, do this big Herding Cats anthology when you have 5 or 6 artists working on stories at a time, and we're doing all this stuff, and then, that book went on to become not only the highest funded wrestling comic of all time, crowdfunding comic of all time, became a #1 bestseller on Amazon. We sold out on Amazon before the book even came out because of the distribution chain, issues and things like that. But it then allowed me to go back and do things like revisit a lot of my old stories from those anthologies you were talking about. And I did a surprise quick starter drop for Buried But Not Dead, which did really well. We got picked up by Source Point Press on that. We got nominated for a Ringo Award. And again, I'm not saying this stuff to humble brag, but I'm saying this stuff just to be honest about when things shut down and people are getting sick and all this stuff is happening. The pandemic has been very traumatizing on some level, I think, for everybody. And sadly, as of this recording, we're not over it yet. Now we have the Omicron surge coming up, and everyone's talking about the end of January, beginning of February. Look out. And, you have a lot of people at this point, they're up their hands saying, well, everyone's going to get it anyway. To which I say, how about you not manage my healthcare decisions? How about I try not to get it if possible? But anyway, point being, there's been a lot of trauma, and I think all of us had to sit back, and were forced to sit back, especially in those early days, and reflect on a lot of things about our careers and our lives and things like that. And I took the time to, like I said earlier, step back, reevaluate my career, reevaluate pretty much everything about myself. And I'd like to think I got rid of a lot of things, and I dare say I'll say things. Got rid of a lot of things that I didn't need in my life, or things that were maybe cluttering up my life.
Yeah, I think, and this is from an outside perspective, I think one of the things that I can see that happened is you streamlined.
There
was a lot of I've got to do this panel over here on Right or Wrong at this convention, and that was keeping you from working on the next volume of Right or Wrong. And I've got to do this appearance for Haunted Highons with Twisted, which is great, but it was keeping you from writing the freaking Green Book. It's right, and it allowed you to streamline and cut out some of the stuff that maybe kept you from getting the stuff done. Is that a fair assessment?
I think it is, to a large extent, because obviously, the way I've always approached my career is the way a lot of bands approach their career. You put out the product, you promote it, and you tour, then you hunker down and you do the next one, right? That goes back to my days in music journalism, I mean, or even like a prose author. You release a book, You tour, you promote it, then you hunker down and you do the next one, and then you wash, rinse, repeat. But it's kind of like in a computer, like clearing like the cache and the cookies out. Because what happened over time, to your point, I just started to pick up a lot of extra,
Right.
a lot of extra everything, and you're right, sitting back and streamlining and shedding a lot of that weight, even physically. It's like I was able to use the opportunity to like lose some of that con weight I picked up, and all that ice cream on the road. And it really allowed me the mental clarity, and I dare say I don't use the word spiritual clarity, but like the psychological clarity, I guess.
You were able to recharge those batteries.
Recharge those batteries and find a new gear, brother.
Right, exactly.
Which is what's been the case now for 2021 and 2022. 2021 laid a lot of groundwork for 2022 and 2023 at this point. And I feel better. I feel lighter. I feel better. There's a lot less clutter in my brain, and it's like you can move forward again. But yeah, it was kind of like you had to do that hard reboot and
right.
And again, it's been hard. I right before we jumped on the air, a very, very close friend of mine just found out that he's COVID positive. Hopefully he's going to be okay. But it's tough right now. Things are very tough, and conventions are starting to open back up. And what do we do again? Here we are again. But I found I'm able to approach a lot of things in my life a lot better and a lot more balanced, healthy way, because I did like you said, I streamlined a lot.
Right.
My workload, my relationships, my approach to the work, yeah, man, I feel a lot better. And now, in a lot of ways, I'm more productive than I've ever been, and I'm enjoying. I mean, knock on wood, I'm hoping to, and a lot of success is a weird metric, but in a lot of ways, I feel like I'm having more success now than I've had in years by part of that purge and that streamline and that refresh.
Right.
And I'm grateful for that. I'm very grateful.
So the last year, we had Buried But Not Dead, and we had Butts and Seats. We had Haunted Highon's Curse of the Green Book.
Yep.
And we had like the beginning of that, and we had Tales of Mystery Volume 5 Kickstarter.
Right. Yep.
Next year, or in 2022, we have everybody get your pencils out.
Yeah.
Here comes the list is not short. Yeah. Go.
Oh, okay. Yeah, put up me. Well played, Sal. Well played. Yeah, coming out in the next year-ish, depending on schedules and things like that. We have Butts and Seats dropping nationwide, and the Kickstarter people getting theirs. We'll be finishing up Haunted Highon's Volume 2, Curse of the Green Book. First 2 issues are out. But then new stuff. Oh my gosh. Like I said, Tales Mystery Volume 5 will be coming out. The Adventures of Cthulhu Jr. and Dastardly Dirk will finally be coming out as original graphic novel through the Source Point Press Kids line. Hope Volume 2, which I'm super excited about, working with Sally Scott on that. Yeah, there's a sweet preview image right there. That's from Sally Scott from Hope Volume 2. Oh my gosh. I know I left people on such a cliffhanger with Volume 1. This is a book I've been really excited about getting back to, and I'm really honored to be working with Sally on this book. Sally's someone I've collaborated with a lot. So to bring her to a larger scale project like this, exciting. Homestead, Werewolf Western with Les Garner. I think you might have a preview image for that even. Les has been so patient as I've been working on this book. Again, this is a book I wanted to do originally. It's one of my original follow-ups to Nightmare World. Way back there. Yeah, look at that gorgeous cover image by Les Garner. Les did Apocalypse Girl for Source Point Press. He also did a story in Butts and Seats, the Tony Giovanni story. he's been so patient waiting for the scripts on this, because this is something I got to get just right. There's going to be a large Native American component to this story, and I've been very fortunate and also very diligent in here and working with some getting some consultation from some people from the Lakota Nation on working with this to make sure that cultural representation is appropriate. People on our team also have various connections to Native American, family members and things like that. But Les is just chomping at the bit, to get his Bernie Wrightson out on this. And so I'm super excited about Homestead.
Get his Bernie Wrightson out.
Yeah. Bernie, Bernie is, I goes on saying, one of the best illustrators in horror comics of all time.
Oh, sure. But knowing Les a little bit, like that's the right analogy to make.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't even know if we're going to do this book in color. We may do it just in black and white even and just go really gritty. We're deciding, but I have the first 2 scripts of this written. I'm going to be passing those off to, like I said, some people of the Lakota Nation to kind of make sure I'm representing the culture appropriately. It's funny because this is a horror book. People sometimes do bad things, make bad decisions, but I do want to make sure that, culturally accurate as possible. And then we got the Arn Anderson book coming out, like you said. We announced that as C2E2, the next wrestling graphic novel. Yeah, look at that. One of the deadliest people in the world with Arn Anderson. So Arn. Yeah.
You can't do that.
No, I cannot.
I will take you right out of this screen.
Poof, gone. Just put a bar.
Yes.
No, yeah.
Yes.
Arn always says he has like 2 or 3 spine busters left in him, and as much as part of me wants one of them, I don't know. I've had brain damage in my life, and I don't want to risk that spine buster.
Well, and your hair will
drop the Undertaker. No, I'm
your
good.
hair won't help you.
Mm-mm.
Like there's not enough product you can put in your hair to cushion you against a spine buster.
No, not from Arn, not in Double A. And that guy, like in that picture, I think it starts to give you a small sense of, I'm a wide guy, but look, he is a big, solid mass of muscle. Just a beast. And that's the thing, you like watch wrestling on television and you start to lose some perspective of how big these guys are. Just a giant of a man, just a monster. Great guy, though. Really good guy.
At New York, you facilitated me meeting Tony Schiavone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Why is there an echo all of a sudden?
I don't know. I don't hear it. So
I'm fixing. Okay. So at New York, you helped me meet Tony Schiavone, but in doing so, I got to meet Orange Cassidy and Jacob Freeman. I can never remember his middle name. MJF, yes. I remember him as the kid who was on Rosie O'Donnell. But anyhow, but the thing about those guys is I'm also a big dude. And I've trained, I trained at wrestling schools here in the area where I'm at. And that kind of stuff, like when I was younger. And those even Orange Cassidy, who is not a monster of a dude, is big.
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't play on TV how big his arms are.
Right. Right. And the fact that he can wrestle with his hands in his pockets. There's a lot of core strength there, friends. Don't get it twisted.
Right. So it's cool that like you've gotten to become a part of that world of which you were a fan.
Yes. Unabashedly.
So let's start with things we're a fan of that we've made comics out of.
Yes. Right.
So
big fan of music and Twisted.
Right. One of the first things we bonded over as friends is music.
Yeah.
You're a metalhead. I'm a punk rocker. Like it's kind of, we have similar, we've crossed similar paths.
Right.
In that regard. So when you announced that you were working with Twisted, I had no idea what was going to happen. And then the first 100 Hions came out, and it was just incredible.
Thank you.
And so now we're Curse of the Green Book is the second half of the story arc, and we have 2 issues out, 2 issues coming, including one that comes out next week.
Yes.
So how is this partnership, going, and do you see more Twisted Haunted Ions in the future?
I would love it. There's definitely conversations with Twisted and I about continuing. They want to keep this series going for a long time, as do I. A couple years back, I sat down with Jamie and Paul and a couple of us. We had a small group of us got together for dinner, and I normally play my cards very close to my chest on things, especially whether it be my creator-owned work or my work for hire. I'm usually, when it comes to my stories, I'm a terrible pitch person, so I like to let the work speak for itself. But I did talk to Jamie and Paul about what I see as like the long-term vision, if you will. God, sounds so pretentious. Sorry, but it's true for the series, and they picked up on it and they were really into it. So yeah, like right now, I'm already pre-writing Volume 3, right? I know where the book wants to go. They're on board with the book where the book wants to go. So yeah, I would think it's a very safe bet we're going to see more Haunted Ions, because Mariana Pescosta and Alessandro De Fornassari continue to level up. Absolutely continue to level up on this book to a ridiculous degree. They are just fantastic. Their work on the one-shot was stunning. Then their work on The Darkness Rises, was nominated for a Ringo Award for Best Illustrator, Best Colorist. Their work on Curse of the Green Book on Volume 2 usurps anything they've done even in Volume 1. When you look like Little Jane, like the alligator and stuff incredible. People are going to see issue 3 and lose their minds. So yeah, that's a pretty safe bet. Ultimately, that's a decision. That's an announcement Twisted would have to make. But yeah. I think it's a very safe bet that we really enjoy working with each other. I was taking it as a big point of pride that George Vallakis, Twisted's manager, always says. He says, "Dirk, you're the only guy I know who they don't pick apart everything you do for them." Jamie and Paul don't, which is a big compliment, because they have a lot of respect for their personal brand. They take very, very, very high amounts of effort in order to maintain their brand and grow their brand and evolve their brand in the way they want to. So the fact that they let me kind of come in and play with it and have pretty close to free reign is a responsibility that I do not take lightly. And it's also a privilege that I'm very proud of, the fact that they let me do what I do with that book with them.
Yeah, so I haven't been watching the comments. Trish, what's up? Paul Talbot, how you doing? We just kind of answered that question for you. That would have to come from, the boys. And Ship, it's about time you woke up. All right, so.
Yes, hello, everyone, and hello.
So the other thing that we quickly realized that we were kindred spirits on is our love for grown men throwing each other across a squared circle and literally beating the hell out of each other for our entertainment.
Yes.
Including, but not limited to, appearing at a convention that was basically just an excuse to watch indie wrestling, which we've done. So
yes.
When and Mike is somebody I want to get on one of these shows when we do it sometime in the future. When Dawkins comes to you, Mike Dawkins, who kind of, as I understand, was the orchestrator of.
Yes, the head of talent relations, if you will. But yes, a butts and seats. He's the guy that kind of networked Tony Schiavone and I together and got this all rolling.
Right. When he comes to you and says, "Hey, I've got this idea,"
mm-hmm.
and puts you with Tony, what was your first kind of thought? What was your.
Honestly, and I know I've kind of joked about this before, honestly, it was, I'm willing to have that discussion. I've had the privilege, and it really is a privilege, to work on several comics based on real people, whether it be Legend of the Shaders with the Harp Twins, or Haunted Highons with Twisted. There's always I've done these books, and there's always a certain level of care and maintenance you have to do in order to make sure that you are representing the brand that the people represent appropriately. But with both Legend of the Shaders and Haunted Highons, I'm getting to take fictional versions of real people. With the Tony Schiavone book, the way that Dawkins kind of approached me about doing this would have been a real life thing. And that's a whole nother level of responsibility, and a whole nother level of maintenance, and a whole nother level of care. But like you said, I'm a huge fan of wrestling, and I like Mike, and but I wanted to see how that would look, what it would look like. The first meeting we had with Tony, it became very evident that there was an amazing story there that he didn't even recognize. I think Tony will be the first to tell you he was a little bit skeptical, kind of like, why would anyone want to hear my story? But his story is fascinating, and there's people that have picked up, advanced copies of Butts and Seats at conventions, and the people that are getting their Kickstarter books, which I believe are going to start shipping. I don't quote
That's what I
me.
was just looking at.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to start shipping in the next week or so. Basically, as soon as it gets to the warehouse, it's going. Everything is there. I've been to Source Point Press warehouse. Everything's there but the hardcovers. They got off the boat. They're on the truck. They should literally be there, last we understood, any day now. And once those hardcovers get there, I'm going to make a big Kickstarter update, and those books are going to, boom, start shipping. Because, brother, there's a lot of them, and they got to get them out of that warehouse once they arrive. But anyway, it became very evident to me that I could tell the story well, and that Tony's story is fascinating. And then again, getting to bring in all these different artists and people like Christy Blanche, Drina Joe, and some other people pointed this out to me. The fact that I could give work to so many artists during a pandemic was really nice. That was a nice bonus, and getting to work with people like DJ Kaufman and Colm Griffin for the first time, some that people I've never worked with before, and Ricardo Rosana, another amazing artist that Mariana from Haunted Highons introduced me to. And then also getting to bring in people like your Sally Scotts and Les Garner, who I want to work with forever, who, we've talked about doing Homestead. But now this getting to be our first comic work together. And, then your Josh Rosses and your, Austin McKinley, who's doing Tales of Mystery Volume 5. And you bring in Mariana on the cover. And, and Scott James, another guy I wanted to work with forever. Jan Apple, who I've worked with previously, did that amazing cover to Buried But Not Dead, getting her to do another sequential story. Trying to make sure I hit everybody. I'm sure I probably missed someone who would feel like a jerk. I know there's a bonus stories at the end. But
let's see. Did we mention? Let's see. We mentioned DJ Kaufman, Sally Scott, John Marrakeen.
Of course, John Boy. One of my dearest friends. So dear I overlooked his story. Yeah, getting to bring in John to do a story in this book, and he's doing some of the hockey stuff with Dominic Riggio, another friend of mine.
Len O'Grady.
Len, who's worked on a lot of Nightmare World stuff, did one of my favorite stories in Tales of Mystery Volume 3. Another friend of mine for almost 20 years. He was one of the original Nightmare World artists, getting to work with him on it.
There's a name in here that I'm not going to butcher.
Miko?
Huh?
Miko. Yeah, Miko did one of the bonus stories. Ani did one of the bonus stories.
Mike Watson.
Mike Watson did a bonus story.
And Sean Daly.
Yeah.
I got you.
We had one other.
Thank God
story.
for the.
We had one other bonus story in there too. Who's the other?
But we already mentioned Len O'Grady, Miko.
Len did the other one. That's right.
Yeah,
Sorry. Yeah.
So I have this, which I bought from Tony Schiavone himself. My Kickstarter is with everyone else's, because I'm not special. Even though
I don't even have a hardcover yet. Tony doesn't have a hardcover. No, they're not here.
I understand. The truck should just stop by the house on the way. But
right.
So Ship said he'd held off on buying the softcover, but I want to tell you what I'm doing.
Get there, Ship. Go ahead.
This is what I'm doing with this book. One, it's right now it's only signed by Tony and Drina, which is hysterical. because you were literally sitting next to Drina when she signed it.
That's fair. That's fair.
But this is my autograph book, my autograph copy.
Nice.
I'm not going to get the hardcover signed, but like there are, for instance, at Astronomicon this year, which gives us an excuse to talk about Astronomicon.
Yes.
Some people who are in this book will be at Astronomicon.
Now we're talking.
So I will walk up to them at Astronomicon, maybe on this page, and have them sign it. This is what I've decided to do with this book. Is this is going to be my excuse to meet wrestlers.
Get Hall and Nash and all that to start signing it and right.
There's going to be some of them that's a little hard. It's going to be hard to meet Dusty, but you know,
yeah.
But I can work on getting, this. That's what I've decided to do with this book. That's
very cool. Arn is even in the book. He has a couple small spots in there in the last chapter that Ricardo Rosana illustrated. So he actually makes his debut in that.
Right. So it's one of those things. Is like for me, this seems like a great kind of. This is going to be my collectible piece, and I'm going to read the hardcover.
I love doing stuff like that. Absolutely. I tried to do that early on with an early Nightmare World book. And then like my buddy Mike Negan, who runs Artist Alley and all the Repop shows, he has like copies of Mystery and Nightmare World that have more signatures in it than I do.
That would make sense.
Yeah, right. Because you get to meet everybody. I'm like, man, I wrote the damn book and you have more signatures than me, But
Mike Negan knows where they're all at in Artist Alley, though.
Well, that he can walk around, right? And then, of course, the funny thing is he brings the book back to him. Like, hey, hold my stuff, Dirk. Can you hold this for me? And I'm like looking at like this copy of Tales of Mystery that has like 8 signatures in it and head sketches and all this. I'm like,
next time, just swap it out. Next time, just swap it out. Right.
Like, I don't know. Maybe they used a disappearing ink, Mike. I don't know what happened.
So so Butts and Seats goes.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a more appropriate term. Absolutely bat crap crazy on Kickstarter and then on Amazon and everywhere. You're coming down from this and you start kind of teasing, oh, I have another wrestling project. I don't want to be the wrestling guy, but I have another wrestling project. How is that conversation? What is that conversation like with with Arn and AEW and all of those people, all of those moving pieces?
I really can't speak too much to the AEW side of things. I don't think that's my place to speak on per se. But with Arn, basically he just, I had this like knock on my door. I open it up and this big mountain of a man grabbed me by the lapels and pulled me up and goes, where's my comic book? No. When the thing with Tony and I went really well, and Tony has been instrumental in this. Mike Dawkins obviously has been incredibly instrumental in this. We started talking about, who else might want to go down this road? Who else might want to do this? Because the other thing is, we don't want to just do carbon copies of the Tony book.
Right.
Here's a book about Arn's life. Here's a book about this guy's life. There again. There's a grand plan here for the kind of stuff that we want to do. So like the Arn Anderson book, it's thematically similar to Butts and Seats. One of the biggest differences, we only have 2 artists. We're going to be doing Arn in the present, and then the one artist doing all the Arn in the present, and then the other artist is doing all the flashback stuff. And it's going to be a little bit of a different storytelling approach as well. I was talking to Drina Joe, who's editing the book, and I've been writing some of it again this weekend, and I'm like, man, I go, this is a different animal. It's refreshing and it's fun, but some Arn's early days, it's different,
right?
It's a different tone. He grew up poor. He was raised by his grandparents, things like that, and it's this different tone. And Arn has this different cadence and this different experiences and things like that. So it's fun, but we're definitely looking at growing this big picture, going back to like Paul's question and your question about Haunted High Hounds. Is there going to be more? I mean, it's not my place to say, but we have a plan. Source Point's really enjoyed this relationship that we've got to have with Tony and with Arn and by proxy with AEW, and we're looking to continue to grow that. Butts and Seats was the first ever original graphic novel to be advertised on cable television. And people might say, well, that's really splitting hairs. That's a really fine point. You might be able to go as far as, to say it's the first creator-owned comic advertised on cable. I would have to check that. But I know we're definitely...
I would imagine Spawn.
You would think, but was it ever mentioned on cable?
I don't know. Like, the research would have to happen. I'm
right. Yeah, I don't know either. Right. But the thing is...
I would guess maybe even The Raven during some of the movie airings or something in the early days. Like,
yeah, but that's the thing, Kyle. What you find is there's been that firewall, for getting comics advertised on cable. Yep. And thanks to Tony, thanks to AEW, we had Butts and Seats mentioned on cable television on one of the highest rated television shows of the night it was on Wednesday nights, repeatedly, with a graphic, with a shout out, with Britt Baker on the screen, all this cool stuff, because Britt's amazing. She's awesome.
Right.
DMD.
But
yeah, I mean, it's been cool, man. And that partnership's been great. We're looking forward to continuing to grow that relationship and that partnership, and doing this book with Arn is the next step in that.
So your next Kickstarter, if I have my dates right, and I don't know why I have this, is a book that may or may not feature me in it, as I understand it.
You might just happen to have a cameo.
Right.
Yeah.
The Adventures of Cthulhu Jr. and Dastardly Dirk.
Yeah.
With Scoot McMahon.
Finally. Scoot, Sean Burris, Leah Letterman editing that book, doing a throwback there. My gosh, it's been so long. This book was supposed to come out in 2020, then 2020 happened. It's like, maybe we shouldn't do a book about the end of the world for kids during the end of the world. I'm just saying. And then Butts and Seats happens and things like that. So we've had a Source Point Press game launching a children's imprint. So there's been a lot of pieces at play in this. The book's been done. That's the hardest part of a lot of this. And that's what I think a lot of people don't understand about comics. Is sometimes you have this stuff done for a while before you get to put it out in the wild. But I mean, super excited about this book.
I think I saw most of this book back in 2019.
Yeah, that's very possible.
When Scoot was showing me images and pages and stuff way back then.
Yeah, that's entirely possible.
By the way,
yeah,
Scoot will be here this week as part of the EXP Expo. For those of you who are interested in finding out more about this and about Scoot.
Yeah, and Scoot's got got his own wrestling book coming out as well. But yeah, it's one of those things where, sometimes you have to sit on things and kind of reshuffle a little bit. But there has not been a signing or a convention I have gone to that people have not asked me about this book. And I'm excited to say that once Mystery Volume 5 ships and the Re-Omnibus ships, boom, next Kickstarter. So people can get all the cool bonus swag with Cthulhu Jr.
This is your first all ages book.
Yeah.
I scrolled through the bibliography. There's nothing in there.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, you could argue Legend of the Shaders, but right. For all intents and purposes.
I mean, Legends of the Shaders is a totally accessible book, but this one is all ages by design.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So as a dude who spends most of his time trying to scare the bejesus out of everyone, or again, doing, with the exception of Haunted Highlands, which is scary funny, sort of Scooby-Doo scary funny.
Right.
Or, two shows that when I read Haunted Highlands, I think of What We Do in the Shadows.
Yes.
Kind of that horror comedy. And this show Ghosts, it's on CBS right now. It's a BBC show.
I'll have to look that up.
It's more of that one's more of a comedy than a horror, but it's got this horror element. It's a haunted house. It takes place in a haunted house.
Okay.
but everything else is scary.
Right.
How did you handle trying to write a book, one with a character like Cthulhu, who Cthulhu fans are rabid and are weird like that? They're not gonna let you screw around with this character too much.
Right.
And two, that isn't your typical thing that you do.
You know, I like you said, I'm a dyed-in-the-wool horror guy, you know, and I love horror. I started accessing horror at a very early age, which this is the result. You know, this is what happens when you watch The Twilight Zone, you know, with your great grandma every weekend, you know. But you know, there's also many different facets, and even again, going all the way back to Nightmare World, my first comic series, I wanted to show all the things you could do under the umbrella of horror, right? And there are stories in Nightmare World that are really funny. You know, your stuff like Knee Deep in the Dead, For Those About to Rock, you know, Hungry Like the Wolf. Some of those stories are genuinely funny. And like you said, Haunted Highlands is funny. But those are not books that are designed to be all ages accessible. And all ages accessible is a tricky thing. And this is a conversation that Scoot and I had early on. Scoot primarily does children's books, not exclusively, but primarily. And when we were having the discussion about this book, I had to keep, you know, in the very early days, we actually wrote or did the breakdown for the whole book, all 5 issues, on a car ride to a con. You know, we had like a 2.5 hour, 3 hour car ride, and we literally, he was sitting there with a notebook making notes, and I was talking, we were riffing back and forth, and we did the beat. It came that fast. It was that organic.
Well, and as fast as Scoot works, I'm surprised he didn't have the book drawn in the car ride on the way down.
He did have sketches. I got him right here next to my desk. But one of the things that happened, let me make sure of my mouth. Yeah, they're right over here. So one of the things that would happen, though, is I'd have to keep saying, look, what we're looking at doing here is not a kid's book, but really I want to do an all ages book. I want a book that you and I as adults can read and enjoy as much as kids can read. And like Looney Tunes, you get different stuff out of it when you're different stages in your life. And again, I'm not besmirching Scoot at all on that, but again, his background is coming from that kids thing. It's like, oh, that might be a little too complex. I said, well, let's look at the Looney Tunes approach. Different people are going to get different things out of this.
Right.
The adult characters are going to probably relate more to the dastardly Dirk character, about this guy who has these career ambitions and things like that and wants to get into the League of Evil. And kids are going to enjoy Penny and her relationship with Cthulhu Jr., you know. So, but the
Kyle's
other thing
can relate to Cthulhu and, you know,
right.
being a little crazy.
Right. Or someone like you might, you know, really to Moreland, the evil wizard, you know, whatever. It just depends. Right. You know, but this is one of those things I got to tap into that aspect of having fun with it, but also creating something that is horror, but that is accessible for kids. You know, like you said, this isn't going to scare the bejeebus out of them, but there's 7 monsters on this freaking cover already. You know, I mean, this is exactly what this is. You know, this is a all ages book about monsters, you know, and Cthulhu Jr. and, you know, the League of Evil. So, yeah, I see the comments, you know, JD saying the art's really fun. Yeah, Scoot's amazing.
JD, Scoot will be here Wednesday.
Yeah, well worth checking out. Make it on your calendar
So come back.
to watch Scoot.
And he may even draw live on the air because that's the way he is.
Yeah, he's a machine. He's a machine.
Yeah.
And again, you know, Scoot was the perfect guy to help co-create this book. You know, just like I always give Kaylin Smith a lot of credit. She was the perfect person to co-create, you know, Hope with. You know, to help me bring that vision of I had that book to life. And no one could do this book like Scoot could to launch it. You know, I mean, this is volume 1 of this book. It's a Dirk Manning, Scoot McMahon through and through. This is how it would have to be. I work with amazing artists, but this is the right creator for this book. And it's going to be fun. It's fun to explore that aspect of it, that wackiness, if you will.
Right. And so, and Scoot and I will talk about this more. You know, Scoot's a Midwest guy. You're a Midwest guy. Sean's a Midwest guy.
Yep. Leah Letterman, the editor, is Midwest.
Yeah, Leah's a Midwestern person. Like, there's from what I've seen in the one shot, the Halloween Comic Fest book that came out, there is a strong sense of a sort of a core Midwestern values kind of thing that happens in this book that I think will be interesting, because you don't often see that in things like this. Like, you look at Shrek, you look at some of these other things, and when I say values, I don't mean like values. I mean like kind of that you can ride your bike down the street kind of thing.
Right.
Right. That's right, Trish. It's
There's a Midwest sensibility to the book.
Yeah, sensibility. That's the book. That's the word I'm looking for. You know, it's kids can go out and stay out until the street lights come on.
Right.
You know,
gardening in your front yard, right? Things like that. Right. There's just a lot of
that you don't necessarily always get stuff. And that's something I'm really excited to see come to fruition with these characters. So I'm very excited for this book. Also, I'm in it.
That too. And I have no problem saying that every member of this book had roots at one point in Northwest Ohio.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, so yeah, it just had that very Midwest vibe, you know, whether going to college there or working there.
Right.
All of it to some point, you know, we're in that area, and we brought that to the book. So that was a point of big pride for all of us.
Now, can you tell me, is this the book where I finally die? Because I've been trying to get killed in a Dirk Manning book for like 10 years now.
You're in the book. That's all I can say. No spoilers, bro.
I've been trying to get killed in a Dirk Manning book for as long as I've known the man. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, people, you got to remember, Kyle. I mean, we're going to talk business here. People pay to get killed in my books.
I know.
So
I know. I just keep hoping that if I bribe you with ice cream enough, it'll.
That's true. Hey, well, you got in there. You and your skinny arms are all in the book. So.
All right. That's an inside joke I haven't heard in a while.
There's a throwback. There's some inside baseball. Yeah. Oh, by the way, someone's asking about the statues behind me. They're the Ronald was the Funkos. I'll geek out for a second. My buddy Jason Plowman made a Tales of Mystery custom Funko. See, we got the little sigil on his head. So I got him. I won't go through all of them. Like Funkos are those things like you buy one, and like I'm a guy. As you can see, I take them out of the box. This was cool. Tiamat. How cool is that, man? My buddy Pat gave me the heads up that Tiamat was coming out. And then I got the big Cthulhu back here. I get my boy Plowman, as well as another by my Scott, made two different Dirk Manning Funkos. The gelatinous cube, Edgar Allan Poe, the Krampus, Chernabog. You know, just you buy one Funko, and next thing you know, they're like tribbles. They start multiplying all throughout your house. And every time, Kyle, I say, I'm done. Then they turn on and make Lemmy for Motorhead.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Or they do, or Twisted's got their own Funkos coming out now. And I'm like, God dang it. Now I got to get the Twisted ones, you know? So
I'll be honest, this is going to probably be my new thing.
What's that?
The Garbage Pail Kids Wrestlers.
Oh, yes.
Savage Randy.
Yep. Brent Engstrom, who actually, it's all about Nightmare World today, apparently, did one of the original 2-page bits in one of the Nightmare World stories. Now, eventually, we had to re-illustrate it for Len O'Grady did in the final print version, but Brent's an incredible artist. Great dude, great artist. And I've just been so happy to see all of his success with the Garbage Pail Kids. But yeah, he's an original Nightmare World guy too.
Nice. So, okay, we have Cthulhu Jr. is next. Then just so people can kind of plan, what's after that?
After that, we got Hope 2.
Okay.
We have Homestead. We have Arn Anderson. I promised everybody an exclusive, so here's an exclusive thing. I'm officially have art delivered on more Love Stories to Die For material. So I'm really excited about that. Now, whether we end up doing a new edition with maybe a new story, a new 22-page story in the first volume, or I do a whole nother volume, remains to be seen. But I'm working with a great artist. Shout out to you, Chris, doing that. Getting to do what was originally Love Stories to Die For was going to be 6 stories. It ended up only being 5 for the collection. And Chris is right now illustrating the 6th story, the pirate story. And man, crushing it. Just crushing it. I'm so excited about that. So it's going to be weird because it's going to be like this juggling act, and they get right or wrong too. So I've got like this log jam, an Arn. So I've got this log jam of stuff. And it's going to be like then shuffling out and working with source play, what's going to come out next and what avenue. Before people start weeping, they're not all going to be Kickstarters. Although, again, I love Kickstarter as a pre-sale option, to get the bonus swag. But that's the other conversation. It's like, what are we going to push directly into the direct market? What are we going to do Kickstarter release for first or after? Maybe I'll drop a surprise quick starter for a Love Stories to Die For anniversary edition, like a hardcover. So it kind of depends how things shake out here. But I think after Cthulhu Jr., we'll be looking at Homestead and Hope, probably neck and neck. I think would be after that. And then make no mistake, we have Tales of Mystery Volume 6 will be lurking on the horizon as well. So a lot of cool stuff.
So I have 2 pieces of art I haven't shown that you sent me.
Okay.
We'll make it quick.
Yeah, there's a page from Tales of Mystery Volume 5. Austin McKinley illustrated that. The amazing Alessandro De Fornassari coloring that. It's been so hard, Kyle, to show any art from Volume 5 because even though the book's over 120 pages, almost every freaking page is a spoiler. So you'll notice Mystery's not even on this page, Right. And it's like, I had to dig so deep to find a page to show everybody. But this has Brad Thompson, Callista. Fun fact, those 2 people talking to Brad Thompson are actually artist Austin McKinley and his wife, Sherry. So they got a cameo in the book for drawing.
I was thinking that guy looks familiar.
Yeah, that's Austin McKinley. Yeah, but again, I mean, look at that gorgeous color palette and Austin's amazing art. Oh, I'm so excited for people to see this book. And I know it sounds terrible to hype my own book that much, but Volume 5 of Mystery starts Act 2 of the series. If I had to write one comic forever, it'd be Tales of Mystery, hands down. And we got that gorgeous cover, for this book, the imminent threat of Cthulhu rising once again. So we got our little kid version of Cthulhu, and then we got the big one. And I'm just stoked beyond words about this. Thank you for showing that.
All right, then we got this guy.
Yes, this is some of the remastered art from thank you, JD, from Tales of Mystery Volume 1 that's gone back. We recolored the first volume. And I love this particular panel because, I mean, Josh Ross is a maniac, just such an amazing artist. And this is just from the first chapter of the first volume of the 4-volume omnibus of Tales of Mystery Omnibus Act 1. And again, then the color work is obviously fantastic as well. In fact, right before we got on the call here, Kyle, I was on the phone with Jim Reddington, who's lettering the book. And we were just talking about from when this book first came out in 2006 to going back and getting to tweak the dialogue a little bit and kind of, I hate to George Lucas it a little bit, but I'm going to say we George Lucas a little bit. But he's going back and refining everything a smidge and really making this a nice definitive color edition so that all 4 volumes are consistent when you get that big 500-page slab of horror noir. Super excited about it. Again, can't wait for people to see it. And it's been really reinvigorating for me to get to go back and then see it all put together like this.
So I know you have a heart out in a few minutes, and I wanted to ask a couple of questions that nobody can ever be prepared for.
All right.
It's my favorite thing to do.
Yes, and especially I know you dig deep and come out left field, so I'll get my burners ready.
If you went to the doctor tomorrow and they told you that you were allergic to mint chocolate chip ice cream, Okay, you ready? What other sweet would you choose to replace it with?
Just mint chocolate chip ice cream? I mean, can I pick another ice cream flavor or ice cream in general?
Try not to be that one-dimensional, but sure.
All right. I will try not to be that one-dimensional. So if I had to give up,
I wouldn't deprave anyone of Jenny's for life. Is all I'm saying.
well, I mean, they have non-dairy and things like that. If I could say, well, this is a dairy thing. But let's say if I had to legitimately give up ice cream, what my second sweet of choice?
Because I know you're not a sweets guy. Your ice cream is kind of your vice.
Ice cream is my jam. I really, off the top of my head, what I really enjoy, and this is my inner 12-year-old coming out. Good homemade chocolate chip cookie dough. Not the ice cream, like the raw dough that they tell you shouldn't eat it because you'll get sick, but you eat it anyway, and it's great. I've actually been to like little establishments that serve cookie dough. And like you can get like chocolate chip cookie dough or this kind of cookie dough or this kind of cookie dough. And they scoop it like ice cream. Then you put toppings on it and stuff if you want. Good chocolate chip cookie dough is another thing that, but I'm weird. I like raw dough in general,
There's a food truck here in town that does that.
That does raw cookie dough?
Yeah.
Oh.
I think it's egg free, so it's safe.
Yeah, and that's what they do. Like the ones that sell it commercially, they'll do it. Like you can
Right.
buy it in the stores now. And that store stuff's okay. Like I'd be very interested in coming to see you to try the food truck. But yeah, like man, they give you homemade chocolate chip cookies, and then you save some dough and you just eat that. Oh, very tasty.
All right. Then my last out of left field question. You're stuck on a desert island with the professor and Marianne, so you have electricity.
Okay.
You could pick one movie that nobody here's ever heard of, because I know you have this affinity for finding these incredibly strange movies on some of these streaming services that people love. You could pick one movie to watch for the next month, and this is the only thing you get to watch.
But it's got to be a rare movie.
Something that you think most people have never heard of that you can put them onto.
Okay. All right. I'm going to pick two options because I'm not sure how rare the first one is.
Okay.
All right. So if you don't mind.
Yeah.
A movie that ever since I have seen it lives in my head. And they did an American remake of this movie, which I also watched. And the American remake, as you might suspect, is serviceable. But really, and I'm going to be that guy, you need to go back and watch the original, Let the Right One In.
Okay.
Now, the American remake is called Let Me In, which is fine. But watch the original. It is subtitled. It's in Swedish. Let the Right One In. It's about a boy who becomes friends with a 12-year-old girl who's a vampire. It is a movie that, since I have seen it, literally lives in my head, and it just has never left. And it is just an amazing, amazing movie. Amazing movie. Now, that one might be a little too mainstream for you.
Well, Paul Talbot says he's seen it, so we have to discuss.
Okay, so there you go. So yeah, but if you have not seen Let the Right One In, go watch Let the Right One In. Paul's got good taste. Now, go a little deeper cut, but still something you can find and watch. And this ties into comic books. One of the next Marvel, in fact, tonight, the trailer for Moon Knight is going to be coming out. The TV series on Marvel, on Disney Plus. Benson and Moorhead are doing a lot of the work on Moon Knight. Benson and Moorhead have done several amazing, amazing films. But the one I would recommend the most to people that like my writing, in fact, it's funny, over the years, several people have come to me and said, have you seen this movie? It's just like something you would write. It's a movie called Spring. And it's amazing. It's about a guy who travels overseas to Europe and meets this woman. And it is it's very much a romance movie, but there's monsters in it. And it's called Spring by Benson and Moorhead. And Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead. One of my favorite films. Touching, beautiful film. Benson Moorhead have done some other stuff. They did Synchronic, they've done Resolution, they've done The Endless. But Spring holds a special place in my heart. That would be the movie I would take with me if I had to take a deep cut movie. That is the movie I would take on the island and watch that and wait out my month before I could return to civilization. And that's a movie that everyone should check out. Everyone should check out all the Benson Moorhead movies. And I know they've gone on to they did an episode of the new, the Twilight Zone series that was on CBS. They did an episode of that. They're also directing a lot of Artifact 81, which is now on Netflix. So their star is really rising. But going back to any of their films, but specifically, if I had to pick one, Spring, Chef's Kiss, beautiful, romantic, at times horrifying, great movie. And if you like my work especially, when I watched it, I did like, wow, this is just like something I would write. So that's my recommendation. Spring.
Nice. So with our last couple minutes here, where can people find you? Where can people follow you? Where can they support your work?
Oh, there you go. JD Smith, 85% Rotten Tomatoes. There you go. People find out, go to dirkmanning.com. You can sign up. I send out a newsletter every month where you get all kinds of exclusive previews, images, things like that. Once a month, I just send you an email about what's going on. You know, in the day and age of social media, I'm glad to see that people are getting receptive to the idea of that again. However, I am on all social media at Dirk Manning. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, God help me, even Twitter, at Dirk Manning. Look for the avatar of the guy with the top hat and the scarf and the glasses. Looks kind of like that. That aside, convention-wise, getting back on the road starting in February 25th and 26th. Could be in Macomb Community College for the Great Lakes Comic Expo. Our good friend Mike DeSantis runs that show. March 12th and 13th, I'm going to be right in your backyard. Fantasticon Toledo. Really cool show. You know, the Fantasticon shows are really nice, accessible shows. Fantasticon Toledo is absolutely great. I'm actually lurking a lot in Ohio for the first couple of months here.
The Fantasticon lineup, by the way, is nuts.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
I don't know how they managed to book the people they booked.
Yeah, absolutely. Dan Mendoza, Michael Golden, just
Mike Grell.
Mike Grell. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't want to start listing people because I'll run out of Leah Letterman will be there. So March I'll be Fantasticon Toledo. April, then things really start to pick up. I'm going to do an Anna-marathon at Bowling Green State University. That show's coming back for a 2-day show. Week after that, I'll be at Cinema Wasteland, the legendary Grindhouse Horror Show in Strongsville, Ohio. And then in April, we talked about it earlier, Astronomicon 5 in April. And I've already got shows lined up for May and past that. But you can go to dirkmanning.com. I have a Google Calendar on there. You can check that out, or a listing on there with all my shows coming up and more stuff coming up after that. But we're gearing back up. I look forward to everyone staying safe, staying healthy, so I can see everybody on the road and get some books in your hands and sign some of the books you have already. Maybe we'll get some ice cream, some mint chocolate chip, some chocolate ice cream, any kind of ice cream, quite frankly.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm just going to put it out there here in the last second. The lineup for Astronomicon, just be watching. That's the people they've already announced are crazy. I'll be honest. I'm going to get to meet X-Pac, which is something I didn't think would happen. The other two dudes, like, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall.
Yeah, Terrifier's coming back. I will be. I mean, Astronomicon is one of those shows that always
they announced the guy from Gremlins, by the way.
Yep. The guy from Gremlins going to be. I mean, again, this is one of those. And again, I want to be careful not to spoil anything, but this is one of those shows that consistently brings such cool people, and that's a very hotly contested weekend this year. There's like 8 other conventions. Planet Comic Con's going on that week. But Astronomicon always brings the heat. They're in their new location in Livonia, Michigan. So that's going to be really cool. Astro is one of those shows everyone should go up to for at least a day. At least come up and check it out. It's just a fun show. It's a party atmosphere. It's a good time. You can see some music, hang out. Ton of fun.
So, all right. So, dirkmanning.com for more details on all of that. here on The Experience. We will be back in just about an hour and a half from now with Talking Shop with Miss Jen. She will have, and I just got this information while we were live on the air, Christian Torpeno from Scout Comics, who is the creator of Beyond the Beyond, which is coming out this week, as well as Kevin Rodatelli from Behemoth Comics. Wow, I just blanked on Behemoth. He will be joining her to talk about what's coming up this year from Behemoth. So that will be in about an hour and a half from now, 5 o'clock Eastern here on The Experience. And stay tuned for all of our other great programming the rest of the night. So for Dirk, I've been Kyle. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being here. Hi, Nancy. We will see everybody next time.